right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Daniel. It is good to see you today on this excellent afternoon.
And to you, a well afternoon.
And also to you, an afternoon of wellness.
On this day of
Today.
wellness.
Yes.
To you, a well day.
And also unto thee, a well day. Good to see you, man. It's been a minute, huh?
It has been a minute, but we back.
We back, man. It's been a busy life in the world of BTP Beyond Flag, huh?
Just a busy life, I think, for everyone, right?
I think for everyone. A lot going on in the town right now, huh?
Yeah. We got a nice shout. Those people working hard on the fire.
Oh, man. We really do, huh? Yeah. I just saw something earlier today. It seemed like, as of this point in the recording, Lockett Meadow and Inner Basin are intact.
That's what I saw, too. I actually thought they were gone based on the fire maps.
That's what I thought, too, which was pretty damaging internally, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already bad as it is.
It's bad.
And to have other spaces like that specifically go, but then to find out they're not. A little bit of a bright spot.
A little bit of a bright spot. Big old nice shout to anyone who's been working on the fire. That's been quite a thing for the town.
And to all those that have been displaced, all the best.
Yeah. Just like you're saying, one bright spot is seeing ways in which the community bands together and helps each other out. Mm-hmm. Helps each other out, though, you know.
Yeah, hopefully we can turn a corner with this thing.
Yeah, no doubt. So, nice shout to the fire crews and onward and upward for #BeyondFlag, huh?
Onward and upward.
We back, quick and nerdy.
Yeah, quick and nerdy today. So what do we got on the docket?
Man, we're going flow.
Getting that flow. Getting that flow?
Yeah, excuse me, flow? Yeah. Oh, man, I'm excited about this one.
Like a personal history of Flo, the progressive lady?
Flo, the progressive lady. Flo, the waitress in Dumb and Dumber. Flo, which I think is a movie reference in some way. Yeah. And then we'll get to do a couple more definitions too, huh?
Oh, do we? Do we got some definitions on the docket? Do we got some of that Urban Dictionary in there?
Some Urban D.
Oh, yes,
and I don't want to have to spill the beans, but just as a little primer. 1, hockey, and 2, rap music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like the T's for the Urban Dictionary definitions.
Yeah, which I imagine really made people just lean into their stereos right now. Yeah.
Just turn that volume up. Set everything else in life aside. Everyone's all set.
I am tuned in. Yeah. So we could talk about flow today, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of go through the history of the person who came up with this concept or was able to define it.
Yeah, there's a origin, a founding father.
A founding father of flow.
Yes.
Yeah. A FFOF.
Yeah.
And then, we'll define flow, and then we'll look at different components or different common elements of flow. We'll talk about the flow state chart, and then a questionnaire related to flow, research, and then maybe some ways to achieve flow in our own lives.
Just flow from top to bottom.
Just flowing on through it if we don't. Yeah.
So who's the founding father?
Yeah, let me try this real quick, man. So I'm reading these letters, and it looks like Mihalyi Czitksentmihalyi. Is that his name?
Are you talking about Mihalyi Czitksentmihalyi?
Is that how you pronounce that string of letters?
I mean, if we're talking about the founding father, like the person that coined flow, it's Mihalyi Czitksentmihalyi.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, that's not how that looks. That looks different than what you said. Yeah.
So then you like to spell things phonetically.
Yeah.
How would you spell Mihalyi Czitksentmihalyi?
Okay, so come on. We got Mihai is M-E-H-I space, and then we have an S-E-E space. What was the next part of that?
Czitksentmihalyi.
Check. We'll go C-H-E-K hyphen M-E-H-Y.
I'm impressed that for the Czech you have the C-K. Usually you just go with the straight K.
Just the K. Yeah, I want to honor just the background of his name here. Let's get a C in there.
Okay.
Oh, man.
So now we all know how Cody would spell it and pronounce it.
Yeah, so shout out to everyone who understood that. And we'll just keep plugging ahead, huh?
And we're off.
Yeah, we're off, man. It's so good to be back. So Mihalyi, he was a Hungarian-American psychologist who was born in Italy in the year 1934. Mm-hmm. His last name, however you say it.
Czitksentmihalyi.
Yeah, there you go. Come on. Derived from a village which was located in Transylvania. He was the third son of a Hungarian diplomat who was appointed as the Hungarian ambassador to Italy, which happened right after World War II. And then when the Soviets took over in 1949, he resigned from his position.
His father. His father,
His father resigned from his position. And then he was actually stripped of his Hungarian citizenship. So the family completely relocated to Italy. And then at that time, Mihalyi dropped out of school to help the family, essentially with income.
Yeah, what an incredible history to end up like coining an entire psychological concept.
Totally, yeah. So he's kind of bouncing around, and then to help out the family, joined the family restaurant. Essentially, that's what his dad did to make money after losing citizenship and resigning from his position. Mm-hmm. So I found this really fascinating. His story was that when he was living in Italy, Mihalyi took a trip to Switzerland, and he wanted to go ski. And apparently the snow had melted, and so while he was up there, he thought he would try to go see a movie instead or something. Mm-hmm. And he saw a flyer, or he saw a flyer for a presentation by a psychologist on UFO sightings.
By UFOs. A psychologist?
By a psychologist. Ugh. Yeah. So that already creates a little bit of pause. And so he decided to go to this presentation in Zurich on UFO sightings. And the person was talking about the idea that Europeans were projecting their trauma from the war, World War II, into the sky in the form of UFO sightings, which gave the Europeans a sense of control over what they had been exposed to through the chaos of war.
Yeah.
And so...
this sounds like this could only come from one source.
Come on. One Carl Jung.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So just by happenstance, Mihalyi finds himself in a presentation that's conducted or held by Carl Jung.
Wow.
Famous psychologist, right?
Well, he's trying to get his ski on.
Yeah. And so it was through this presentation that he actually developed this really big interest in psychology. He ended up immigrating to the States. I think it was in the mid-50s or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then he earned a degree from the University of Chicago. Yeah.
Hashtag go Maroons.
Maroons. Yeah, man. You knew that.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Everyone knows the University of Chicago. Hashtag go Maroons.
Go Maroons, man. Apparently their mascot is Phil the Phoenix.
Like, how's that related to a maroon?
Yep.
What is a maroon?
Yep. Yeah, real prestigious university with a really confusing mascot.
Well, they have a much higher IQ than I do.
Yeah, they got it figured out. They know what a maroon is.
And what a Phil the Phoenix
is. And what a Phil the Phoenix is also. Holy moly. Yeah, at any rate.
So he ended up there at the University of Chicago, all from that presentation of Carl Jung's.
Yeah, on UFOs of anything. Yeah, incredible. He ended up earning a PhD and then went on to have a really, really impactful, profound career. Won a variety of awards for his work on positive psychology. He was a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and a member of the National Academy of Education. And then again, like you were saying earlier, he really is kind of the founding father of the concept of flow. Mm-hmm. That was the thing that really came out of his research. Mm-hmm. And sadly enough, after a long life, Mihalyi passed away in October 2021.
Yeah, just recently,
yeah. I can't remember his age, but I think he was in his 80s or 90s. Huh? Mm-hmm. Passed away from cardiac arrest. And so through his work and through his research, he found himself asking this one question, which is, what is it that makes a person truly happy? He really felt interested in understanding the roots of happiness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what propelled him into understanding flow, wasn't he? He was trying to figure out, how do people feel satisfied in life or whatever? There was research, right, where they looked to see if income correlated with subjective well-being or happiness. Yeah. And so they have people rate how happy they are. They compare that to income, and turns out income doesn't directly correlate with happiness.
Shocker, man. Do we have a button game for that joint? A womp womp or a... Yeah, that would have been good for the UFO sightings. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, he found himself truly baffled at this idea of like, here's a society that pushes this idea that you need to make more income. That will be the thing that makes you happy. Mm-hmm. And then finding all this research that there was really no evidence for that idea.
Yeah, it's essentially a scatter plot, isn't it? There's an amount of money you can make that takes care of basic needs like food and shelter, and then beyond that point, it's a real scatter plot for how it correlates with subjective well-being.
Yeah.
And so he was like, well, if it's not that, what is it? And there's also been research since, right? That like they look at geographic location, age, marital status, hobbies, interest, employment. And turns out none of those things are direct correlates to subjective happiness. Turns out the environment can't automatically produce happiness.
Yeah. Shocker.
Shocker.
Yeah. Dang it. So then what? If not them, then what? Yeah,
Who knows?
Who knows, man? Nobody knows. Oh, man. Yeah. So that was really kind of the base for Mihai's desire to learn what is it that makes people truly happy. Mm-hmm.
So he went on to like he studied like artists, creatives, athletes, scientists, people that have different ventures, professionals in different areas.
Yeah.
And he wanted to figure out what gave them meaning, right?
Yeah, totally. So he would do these really in-depth qualitative interviews of folks and understand what was it that made these people truly happy. And he came up with this idea of flow. I want to share a quote from an interview he conducted with a music composer. Mm-hmm. Where this composer said, "You're in an ecstatic state to such a point that you feel as though you almost don't exist. I have experienced this time and again. My hand seems devoid of myself, and I have nothing to do with what is happening. I just sit there watching it in a state of awe and wonderment, and the music just flows out of itself." Mm. And so it was like in answering this question, he continued to come across similar descriptions of what is essentially represented in that quote. And that essentially led to him creating his most popular book, which is called Flow. Mm-hmm. And that, I think it was originally published in 90, but he started doing research for that in the mid-70s.
Yeah. So long-staying research, and some of that being qualitative research, right? Where you go do those interviews, that quote you pulled from. Yeah. He realized the common thread of these people being like, I feel disconnected from everything else because I'm so in essentially the flow of this one thing.
Totally, yeah. I'm just doing this. I don't even have to think about it necessarily. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You been there?
I think I've been in some flow before, yeah.
You got your flow on?
I got my flow on. At this moment?
Is it when you're rapping?
It's when I'm rapping, man. Mom's spaghetti. Oh, man. So let's define flow.
All right.
Let's define flow.
Are we on the Urban Deed?
Well, you got to start with the Urban Dictionary. It's the foundation for which all language and understanding of this exists. Yeah.
The foundation?
It's the foundation, man.
of all language.
Yeah.
Okay.
Urban D is the foundation for all language. And how, like Cambridge, Oxford, they constantly reference Urban D.
They come back. Their starting point is Urban D.
And then
they kind of put their little spin on it.
Their spin on it, yeah. They kind of fancy it up a little bit. Got to dress up a pig somehow, a little dipstick. Yeah. So the
Maybe
first
some rouge.
Some rouge. Yeah, totally. Oh man. So the first definition in Urban Dictionary related to flow is long, curly, or wavy hair. Mostly a hockey term. Hair that would flow out the back of someone's helmet and curl up around the back of the helmet. Mm-hmm, Someone can have a flow, or they can be flowing. Yeah. Would it help if I put this in a sentence for you?
Oh, for sure it would.
All right, man. Did you see Colby's sick flow?
Colby's?
Colby.
Is Colby a hockey athlete?
According to Urban Dictionary. Yeah. Did you see Wayne Gretzky's sick flow?
Sick flow?
Yeah. Jaromir Jagr? Yeah. Mario Lemieux?
Do they have flow, those people?
Oh, Jagr. Jagger's got some flow.
He's got some flow.
Yeah, we might have to put that up on IG for everyone.
So flow's the hair coming out the back.
It's the wavy curly hair floating out the back of that helmet.
And then have they done a study to see if there's a direct correlation between performance and the flow of the hair?
I don't know that there is one that's been, peer reviewed. But I have a hypothesis.
Do you? Yeah. Or maybe this is the study for you.
This might be it, man. We work with a person who's pretty familiar with hockey, right? So how do you get a hattie? Probably the better the flow, right?
Yeah. The more the flow, the more likely you are to get a hattie.
To get a hattie. Yeah. Yeah. It's good being in on the vernacular for hockey, man. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
That's super rewarding.
Super rewarding. So that'll
be your seminal work. If you do that research, that'll be your seminal work.
If I get that peer reviewed and published in Nature, I'm retiring, man. If I can demonstrate a correlation between hockey hair and performance on the ice. Yes.
made it.
Mama, I made it. Yep.
So that's
Oh, man.
that's Urban Dictionary definition 1.
That's definition 1.
Does it have another?
Oh yeah, this is important, man.
Oh, this is I see it here. This is what you referenced a minute ago.
Yeah, this is to rap with a unique melodic rap style.
So can you use that one in a sentence?
Did you hear Eminem say "Mom's spaghetti"? That dude can flow.
So they picked Eminem's reference to being ready. He's got vomit on his sweater, mom's spaghetti.
Mom's spaghetti. That's it, man. That's flow. That's to rap with a unique melodic rap style.
Okay.
Yeah. So, again, Urban Dictionary kind of establishes that foundation. Mm-hmm. So we could build from there.
So then what's the lipstick? What's the definition that has a little bit of lipstick and rouge to it?
Yeah, the one that has the rouge and relates to actually what we're talking about is the positive mental state of being completely absorbed, focused, and involved in your activities at a certain point in time, as well as deriving enjoyment from being engaged in that activity. Yeah, and there's a really good quote that Mihalyi has where he sums up flow. And he says, flow essentially is being completely involved in an activity for its own sake. The ego falls away, time flies, every action, movement, and thought follows inevitably from the previous one. Like playing jazz, your whole being is involved and you're using your skills to the utmost. Yeah, so to like put it real succinctly, essentially, flow is the holistic sensation that people feel when they act with total involvement.
Yeah. And you think you've hit it a few times?
I think I've been in flow before. Yeah. What about you?
Oh, I think I've been there before. Like
a daily
immediately
basis?
reading those definitions, it makes me think maybe recent experiences would be like mountain biking. Like if you're mountain biking, sometimes I like feel like I'm part of the bike or even part of the mountain.
Yeah.
It's like you can almost see things coming. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like
Totally.
just invested entirely in that thing.
Yeah. He describes it as like the self-disintegrating almost.
Yeah.
So like when you're describing you being kind of almost like you're the mountain bike.
Yeah.
It's kind of like there's the separation from yourself.
Yeah, it's like the lines between those three distinct entities. Like if we were to break it down into three, like me, the bike, the mountain, it's like those disintegrate a little bit.
Yeah. It's all kind of just happening.
Yeah.
You're not having to think real intentionally almost. You're just in it. Yeah.
Right up until the moment that I just...
You're on your bum. Yeah. In the weeds.
Take it to the grill.
Yeah. Throwing up mom's spaghetti.
Throwing it right up until the moment where I just crack my head on a rock and then throw up mom's spaghetti.
Totally. Yeah, which is like, to go back to what you're saying as far as mountain biking, like he took an interest in studying people's behavior in that. So like artists will often describe that. Musicians will describe that. And then athletes are really common. So you can hear people who make projects describe being in like a flow. Mm-hmm. And it's almost kind of like, oh man, I can't believe I made this whole thing. I only felt like it took 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then what are the common elements of that then? Like for me, I have this total internal image of what you're talking about based on experiences I have, like I mentioned. Yeah. What are the core factors or core elements of it?
Yeah, this evolved over time. So by the time that Mihalyi's passed, I think he identified 8 common factors, and the first one is focus. So he talks about having an intense concentration.
Okay.
Yeah. The second one is ecstasy, which he describes as being outside of reality, which is kind of an interesting. Yeah.
So like ecstasy is like letting go. Being outside of reality. What do you mean?
The way that I believe he describes it as being so immersed in the experience that it's just kind of like it's all here and it's all now. There's a sense of like enthusiasm and enjoyment with it.
Yeah, just so present. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This one is a really interesting one. The third common factor that he describes he refers to it as inner clarity, and so he describes that as knowing what needs to be done and how to do it. And getting immediate and unambiguous feedback. So he uses the description of a rock climber to describe that, because he says, if you were to make a wrong move, you get feedback. You don't make that next hold or whatever, you fall, and you get that kind of feedback. And so a person has to be so present and invest in what they're doing to where they kind of have to plan out and also know what needs to be done. I need to get to the top of this rock or this climb or pitch or whatever. And so if I don't do that, it'll look like this. And if I do that, it'll look like this. There's like a clear goal in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that makes complete sense. Yeah.
Yeah. The fourth one is adequate skill. And that's just knowing that the activity is doable. Mm-hmm. And we'll get to this, but there's this real important interaction between challenge and skill. Mm-hmm.
So like if mountain biking is an experience that can produce this for me, if I'm on a trail that's way above my pay grade, like flow state's probably not going to happen.
Totally. You're probably going to be in like a state of anxiety or worry or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get to that chart here in a sec. And then serenity is another one, which we were describing earlier, is that sense of being outside of your own ego, or the ego disintegrating. Mm-hmm. Another really common one, I think even in that music composer's quote, is the idea that hours pass without knowing. Mm-hmm. There's kind of a time blindness associated with it. And the last two are control and then intrinsic motivation. And control he just describes as having a feeling of control over the task being completed. And then I think for me, one that I love in these 8 common factors are the intrinsic motivation, which is, he says, whatever produces flow becomes its own reward. And essentially you're just doing it for its own sake.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not motivated by the outcome, or like if you're exercising for some fitness goal, that's not an intrinsic reward or intrinsic motivation. Totally. Or if you're getting paid to do something, maybe takes away from that potentially, unless you're totally not conscientious of that or using that as a motivator. Yeah, he really describes that, just experiencing such a true or pure satisfaction in the activity itself that it's just by doing that thing produces the sense of reward. So then how do people reach flow then? So all those eight things seem good. I want them.
Yeah. Totally. They all sound good.
How does someone reach flow?
What I love about this is that it can be intentionally achieved or done. And then I think this is where that idea or that interaction between challenge and skill interact. And we could share this flow state chart. There are 8 different states, essentially. And if you were to imagine an X and Y axis going up, you have the challenge and from low to high. And then as you go out, you have the skill level, low to high. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then so where he says that you achieve a state of flow is when the challenge is like just barely outside of your own skill. And so high challenge, high skill is where you achieve that flow state.
Oh, so you don't want to be mid-range. You want to be,
So
like high skill and a high challenge.
Yeah. And he talks about this just when that challenge is just barely outside of how you perceive your skill. It kind of requires you to pull your focus in just a little further, to be a little bit more mindful, a little bit more present with the thing. You know, if it's high skill, low challenge, you can kind of just almost relax into it. If it's kind of like a medium amount of challenge and high skill, you can maybe feel a sense of control over that, which isn't a bad place to be. If you want to reach the flow, then what you do is you just increase the challenge.
Yeah. And what about low skill, high challenge? Where does that put me?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about a second ago, right? That's anxiety. Yeah.
My fave.
My fave. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That kind of thing. And then the other idea of high challenge and then medium skill is kind of like between anxiety and flow. He refers to it as arousal. And then the thing to do there is just work on your skill. So whatever it is that you're doing is to continue repeating, practicing doing that thing to increase your skill so that you get a little more mastery over it. And then that moves you from arousal to flow.
Yeah. We'll have to put this chart up for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to see him develop that, and then just kind of identifying like strategies for if you're in any of those states.
Yeah.
And the thing is to essentially look at challenge. Do I need to increase the challenge?
Yeah.
And skill. Do I need to increase my own skill?
Yeah.
And ability.
So then how do people know if they've ever entered flow or, have experienced it? For me, how do I figure out whether I have or do experience flow?
Yeah, there is a 36 item questionnaire. It's called.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah, it's quantitative,
validated, reliable,
and it will prove to me categorically whether I've been in flow or not.
without a doubt. Yeah,
Good.
whether you've been flowing.
And the reliability and validity are good.
Yes, and those
Okay.
are
Okay, good.
So
I wouldn't want to rely on my subjective judgment.
or the judgment of another human.
Yeah, I mean
That's
that
the
goes
last
without
thing.
that goes without saying,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, totally. If I were to say, Dan, right now it looks like you are maybe in flow.
Yeah.
No.
What percentage do you think I trust that?
Is there a number below 0? Does it go?
We can use 0.
Okay, we'll go 0. Yeah, so there's a questionnaire. It's called the flow state scale, 36 items, and it's scored on a 1 to 5 Likert scale. 1's representing strongly disagree with the question or the statement, and then 5 representing strongly agree. And then it's used to rate post-event flow and help determine where a person might land on the flow state chart. Mm-hmm. And then that increases insight into whether you want to increase challenge or increase skill.
Yeah. And so what types of questions does it ask? Or like, do you have an example or two?
Yeah, I'll pick out a few here.
Okay.
The first question is, I was challenged, but I believe my skills would allow me to meet the challenge.
So that's where like the challenge feels really doable.
Yeah, totally. I have the skill to meet this challenge, exactly. Mm-hmm. Another one is, it was no effort to keep my mind on what was happening.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't get bored with the thing.
Didn't get bored. Yeah, totally. The challenge and my skills were at an equally high level. Another one is, at times it almost seemed like things were happening in slow motion.
Yeah. So that's when you were using those qualitative descriptions above, that's what makes me think of it is like sometimes mountain biking, it really is like things disintegrate a bit, like time slows down.
Yeah.
It's like, I also think time in those moments really doesn't matter. Like, I don't know how much time has passed or what's going on. Time is almost not relevant. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, we keep coming back to this example for me, and I'm like, yeah, what for you? Like, do you have a recent experience of being in a flow state, or when these qualitative factors show up for you?
Yeah. I think it would probably be mostly related to running trails. Yeah. It's probably pretty similar to riding mountain bike, I would think. Yeah. Like, I think an easy one to achieve flow is on a pretty difficult downhill. Yeah. But not too hard, like not running down Eldon.
Like, you're scared to.
Yeah. Like, that's like, high risk. You need to be really attentive, but running down something like Observatory Mesa, or maybe like Arizona Trail or something like that, up by Snowball, like you can kind of let go a little bit. Mm-hmm. And in that process, it seems like, you can become hyper-focused, just like going with the process itself. And just like you're saying, it does seem, it's hard to describe, right? But that disintegration of self, you're not thinking about much. Not thinking about much about you. You're just kind of in the experience itself.
Yeah, like past, future stuff. It's not like sometimes people say they go do something for therapy or to think through something. Mm-hmm. That's not really flow.
That's not happening. Yeah. It's like complete mindful presence.
Yeah. Man, it feels good.
Yeah. Come on.
So Dan Seligman. Didn't the homie go in on this?
Yeah, totally. He's another, I guess, I don't know, is founding father the right term for
early father?
Early father. He's an EF for positive psychology, yeah.
Oh, he's like the founding father for positive psychology, right? But flow then gets closely associated with that.
Gets associated with it, yeah. So these two, their fields overlapped in quite a way. But yeah, flow has made its way into the research, and then like you're saying, Seligman's done a lot of that research. For him, mainly identified flow as a huge part of improving the human experience for its role in living a meaningful life. And that includes using virtues and strengths for something larger than your own self, and then spending less time doing things that are inauthentic or mundane. Mm-hmm. So he's really saying that, use intention to do things that provide for you a sense of satisfaction.
Yeah. So here, I think the important thing of Seligman is you have to actually know what your values are. So you have to have a degree of self-awareness to know what you value, to actually pick the context by which you'll be able to most likely feel flow.
Totally. Yeah. Which goes back to those studies, I think of like the income and happiness study, and what are the things that tend to produce happiness in a person's life. And one of those variables is a clear value structure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. knowing what that is really important.
So then didn't research come out and say that initial question that Mihai had about, well, what produces happiness or wellness? When people studied flow, they found in the general population, for those that can achieve flow or get to some frequency of a flow state, it does correlate with increased satisfaction or happiness, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it correlates in the general population. Just they found that people who have an activity that they regularly do, where they achieve a flow state, tend to have higher levels of subjective well-being.
Yeah, and so then that's the general population, and he also didn't he look a lot at like specific populations? Like you mentioned that composer at first, so like I wonder what has research shown like with athletes or artists, like video game or process of learning, stuff like that.
Yeah, come on. Same, and same, pretty much. Yeah, and study not too long ago, 2016, author found that it correlated with an enhanced well-being and concept of self with elite athletes. This one was fascinating. In the realm of video game development, what they found was the interaction between skill and challenge has been used as a guide to increase a gamer's enjoyment. So they found that when high challenge and high skill interact, people tend to enjoy the game more. And they also found it's exacerbated when video games have multiple players. So if there's a group of people playing a game, high skill, high challenge, people enjoy that game even more. Yeah. That's
good research for them. Probably get people on that game.
Yeah, how do you get people stuck on the game longer? For sure.
A little bit of cynicism.
Yeah. Which was probably then used to pitch the game to people to fund it, right?
All right, and we're back.
Sorry about us, guys.
What about with like art and artists? Yeah, is there research about that? That's one I'd wonder about.
Totally. Yeah, the ones that's interesting is they compared people who described having been in a flow state when they created a project versus people who described not being in a flow state when they're in that project, and that they found higher levels of happiness and well-being while creating the thing. So it was like they would speak about their experience in a higher way. And then in the realm of learning, there was an article that came out, this one's a little older, 2009. Researchers looked at objective learning performance, perceived learning of subject matter, skill development, and student satisfaction. And what they found was a positive correlation between each of those variables and flow in the group of students. So it was like satisfaction went up, people were able to improve their skills and had a better appreciation or more of an understanding for whatever subject it was they were studying when they were in a state of flow.
So flow equals good.
Flow equals nice. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So then what do I do to intentionally, you listed those variables that characterize the experience. How do I try and promote it?
Totally. A rule, I can't remember who came up with this. I'm blanking on the name right now, but a rule for this is the 4 F's. And so how to attain flow is to think of these 4 words that all start with F. The first thing is focus, which find a task or something that requires singular focus and a high level of concentration.
Okay. So it has to be something that actually requires your attention, that you're being attuned to. So not just something where you're like, I'm going to force myself to focus.
Yeah.
Also, the challenge of it is to the degree that it requires your focus.
So it demands, it brings it in. Yeah.
So beyond selective attention, something that demands focus.
Yeah, truly. So the next thing, so focus being the first, freedom is the second one. And freedom kind of speaks to that time blindness or that idea of being unhooked from time.
Yeah.
And it's that idea that in flow, there's no room for self-scrutiny.
Yeah.
So somehow the right thing is done without thinking about it.
Okay. So it's not like when you're out on a trail run and you're worried about, you're supposed to be back to do what? To do
podcasting.
Yes. It's trying to set you up there.
To do whatever.
So if you're focused on that you're supposed to be getting done with that thing to go do the next thing, you have to have the freedom to be doing the current thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to describe that. The third one is feedback, which you spoke to a little bit earlier. And that's when, flow requires actions that give you information, whether you're moving toward the goal or not. Yeah. So you'll know whether you're completing it correctly or incorrectly. Again, referencing the rock climber. And the fourth one represents the 4% challenge. So you have focus, freedom, feedback, and 4%. All F's. Pretty good, huh?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Good for this guy that did this.
Yeah, good for this guy. I'm totally blanking on his name right now. Yeah, this is driving me nuts. Anyway.
4 F's to go along with flow. It's also an F. I don't know if you
Also
noticed.
an F. Holy moly. Holy. So the 4% challenge, that idea, referencing the skills to challenge ratio, is the idea is to find a task where you can put the challenge 4% outside of your skill level. So again, just a sliver outside of how you might perceive yourself in terms of your ability, your skill to achieve the task.
Yeah, I love that they've quantified this.
Yeah, which I'm sure was done through rigorous research.
So do they have a reliable and valid measure where whenever I'm doing a task, I can gauge if I'm exactly 4% above my challenge and skill?
That demands further research.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Dan, there's probably not much out there that's 4% outside your skill level.
You got yourself on that one, huh?
I did. Couldn't finish the sentence.
Oh, man. I'll just go throw you the socialization domain and see what happens there. What's the one thing that's 4% out of Dan's domain?
Dude, that's 4% below my pay grade. Whatever that means.
Yeah. You know what the danger here is for you, Dan, is that your skill is too high on everything. The challenge is too low.
The reason it's so hard for me to get to a flow state.
Yeah, totally. I would say, like fly a plane to Mars, but nope, that's not going to be outside of your skills.
It's too easy.
Too easy. Yeah. So, quantum physics, again, too easy. Oh, man.
I really got myself with that one.
Yeah, that was well done. Good job, my friend. Yeah.
So then are there, those are internal things, like you mentioned the 4S. So focus, freedom, feedback, and 4% above your skill level.
Yeah.
Are there environmental factors that you can try to put into place to help accommodate it?
Yeah. And so the very first one is to find a task that includes high consequences.
Like flying to Mars would be high consequences for most.
Yeah. Not for Dan, though. Again, easy. Yeah. Do you have a button where the person is yawning? Dan flying to Mars. Yeah. How about Dan calculating the distance between Earth and the moon and to what rate? How fast his arm would have to swing to throw an apple that distance. Yeah, man. So again, no flow. No flow. Short hair, no flow.
I guess the only route I got is to grow out the back of my head.
Oh, man. Yeah, you could always do that. Or you just, Mom Spaghetti, man. Just keep rehearsing those Eminem lyrics.
So, sorry. Oh, man. So high consequences.
High consequences,
So if the
yeah.
environment has high consequences, it induces, can I share? Recently, I was on the Colorado River in a recent raft.
Yeah.
Or recently in a small, pack raft.
Yeah, come on.
And it felt like if I got knocked out of the boat and didn't get out of the river, the consequences were high, that I'd be sent down the river a lot. I'd either be hiking really far, or just committed to boating the rest of the river with very few supplies.
Oh, okay. Not as a lifeless figure in the middle of the river sort of thing.
Oh, hopefully not.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think I had the supplies I'd probably end up in that state at some juncture.
Yeah.
But it really, I was literally so tuned in more than any recent experience that I could think of. And I, believe it or not, I got knocked out. It's hard to believe.
Knocked out.
Like I fell out of the boat.
You fell out of the boat.
Yeah.
No.
I know it's hard to believe.
This shatters
Especially
my
with
whole
how well
image of
you
you.
know me.
Yeah, my whole conceptualization of you is shattered. It's in class shambles all over
This
the
is a
ground.
real paradigm shift for you.
Yeah.
This is going to be hard for you to reconcile this information, but it turns out that I got knocked out of the boat.
I know. What?
So anyhow,
Okay.
And then this is going to further confuse you and
Okay.
confound you.
Yeah.
I couldn't capably get back.
That part actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So I had to swim to shore.
Yeah.
And it was like, all senses on board. It was like, I mean, it was like an awesome experience. There's a little bit of worry.
Yeah.
I was probably in the arousal state. Like I was above my pay grade.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was in the arousal state, swimming over, but I felt so connected to what was going on for me, different than just going through the mundane worldly experiences day to day.
Yeah.
So like high consequences, like the risk of going too far downstream, made me like super attuned, super focused.
Yeah. The consequences sort of demand your focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How else can you influence the environmental factors?
Yeah, that's a great one. So high consequences. The next one is through rich environments.
Yeah.
And so this one is through unpredictability, strangely enough. Yeah, so demanding, dynamic, or unpredictable environments also increase focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have to be flexible for it, adaptable.
Totally. Yeah.
I love this stuff.
Yeah, and the last one is embodiment, which is a sense of control over your body, relating to physical performance and goal achievement as well. Kind of related to that common factor we were saying of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this. This makes me excited about life.
Yeah, come on. Oh, well, says the man who can do it all, except get back in his boat when he falls out.
And not stay in the boat.
And not stay in the boat. Yeah. Oh, man, that is a great story. I'm glad you saved that for the pod here. Yeah, and I am having a hard time recovering my whole image of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. It's
Yeah,
a whole paradigm shift.
This might take years or decades.
Yeah, you might have to start therapy.
Yeah, I might have to start therapy to. So what brings you in today?
Dan.
Well, I had an idea of Dan.
Back in the boat.
And he couldn't get back in the boat. And that's not Dan.
I don't know how to reconcile that with reality.
Yeah. Can you? Yeah, this process, that ain't going to work.
Well, if you see a therapist in town that happens to know me, I think that'd be a pretty short therapeutic process.
I think it would just be, that's Dan.
Yeah. And what
We'll
part
call
of
this
this
an hour.
is shocking?
Yeah.
We'll call this an hour.
We'll call this an hour.
We're done here.
Yeah.
Achieved treatment goals.
And, discharge for completion of treatment goals. Well done. Good night.
Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for dipping into that flow.
Yeah, man, that's flow in a nutshell. Again, for me, just in kind of reviewing everything for our listeners, and the idea, if you want to achieve the flow state, is find something that's naturally rewarding to you, something that is demanding of your focus, something that lies just outside of your skill set or your ability, and then go do that thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, hit that flow, because it also correlates with higher subjective well-being.
Higher levels of well-being. Yeah. So if you want to feel well, know your values and go do them. Yeah.
Boom.
Blammo.
Why don't you take us out by shouting us out?
No doubt. You can always find us on the interwebs. www.beyondflag.com. Flag spelled
FLG.
Come on. And we are on the I.
G.
Yeah. G squared. What are we? Beyond_flag. Yeah. FLG.
Something akin to that.
Something akin to that. It's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So come check us out. In Twitter, should I mention it?
Yeah, I mean, you can mention it.
I guess
all
I
you
just
want.
did. Yeah. So you can find us on Twitters also. Yeah. For a really mundane
Please
time.
do.
If you want to achieve flow, don't go to our social media accounts. Yeah.
Otherwise, take care.
Lovies.